Hey guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. So good to have you here. Brett, how was your day, man?
Fantastic day, Julio. Thank you.
Fantastic. Hey, all these changes in legislation and where the economy is going, self-made super fund has become such a big, big topic, huh?
Light bulb moments, I
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
Like it's,
yeah.
yeah.
So what are we here to do tonight, man? What are we gonna do tonight?
I think it's time we take control of your super.
That's right, right?
Yeah.
Have a light bulb moment.
Light bulb moment, yeah.
Yeah. So, guys, we have one question for you tonight. It goes like this: how well is your self-managed super fund or your superannuation really going? How's your super going? Okay. Now, Brett and I have been dealing with lots of clients, and recently, like even today, so many people that knew about this presentation due to their end of the year financial planning, all of that stuff. It's been busy, 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 busy with self-managed super funds. Now, what we want to do here tonight is to have a balance between detail, the things that you need to know, and try not to be boring, right? Because often people don't have the attention span to stay because life is demanding. There is so many things happening, coming at us and calling our attention everywhere, right? But what we wanna produce for you is a feeling, a knowing that you're no longer right second guessing what's happening with your super, right? Um, so what man? I just had the thought.
Well, not one of these.
Yeah, and we're gonna go there. I'm gonna go there, brother. Have you ever been in a situation, yeah, when you go to a party, you go to an event, a social event,
Yeah.
and you bump into someone, okay, and you actually don't like that person. You actually kind of want to get rid of that person, but you don't want to be rude. What if I taught you a way to get rid of people you don't want to talk to, right? And it's very polite, and they will walk away from you. Would you be interested in a
You
below?
sound very confident around this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
why not? Your
Like it
knowledge.
happens, right? What's it to do with super? You will understand because we're gonna go deep into the rabbit hole. The rabbit hole. Here we go. Right? Here you go. Here we go. All you gotta do, if you're ever in a situation where you are at a social event, a social gathering, and it works for people even in your family, right? And you don't want to talk much to them, all you gotta do is to ask them the following question. So, Brett, how's your superannuation going? And then you just be quiet and you just do not say anything else. You just ask people, so how is your superannuation going? And what you will notice is you can count to three. They will start telling you that they need to go to the toilet, that they're going to catch up with you later, and they will move on. There is a paradox or a mental disconnection with what is actually happening. So when we see our clients coming through, right? When we see our clients coming through, right? And they are asking us about self-managed super fund and superannuation, there is a real awareness for us. Because the truth is, most people have no idea how their superannuation is going. Why? Because you see, if you go back to the historical factors, a lot of things make a lot of sense. So, guys, we were going to bring you the facts and the details, and we want to do this in a way that is not boring, okay? So, what we know, brother, is that after the Second World War, governments said in the Western world, said to people, oh, welcome home, thank you for defending our nation. We're now going to pay you for your retirement. We're going to give you a pension, right? But back on the day, what would happen was people were going to retire at 65 and literally they would be dead before their 70s. So for all the taxes that you paid, if the government have to pick you up for 5 years, they could budget for it. They literally could budget for it, right? Now come with me because you see, I'm actually going to show you a mental construct. I told you kind of a joke or a social experiment. I want you to know it works. If you ask somebody, how's your super going? You are causing inside of them a dissonance. They don't know. If you are here now watching this, I want you to know that it's 90% of the people, if you actually ask the question, how's your self-managed super fund going? They will say, I don't know. Because it almost appears to them as though it's not their money. If something is happening to them and not for them, right? So the joke, it's actually not that funny, but it's a joke nonetheless. It goes like this. Have you noticed that when you're driving early in the morning, you're just going for a drive, what do you see?
Old people.
What are they doing?
Biking, walking,
right?
running.
So let's go with the bike. Okay. So you're in your car, and they're biking, right? And it comes in, and you look at this old guy, right? And his legs are this big, and he is pushing that pedal, man. He's really working that bike hard. Brett, he's not going to die anytime soon.
No, he's fit.
He's fit, and he's probably sexually active too.
Yeah,
right?
Probably.
Like he comes off, comes off his bike. Give me a double shot, something, These guys are living, right? So we're coming in so when government starts to see this, they had a deal was, I will pay you for your retirement. I'll give you a pension. So suddenly then they said, hold on a second, we can't afford this. So they threw the monkey at the employers all over, right, Australia. So you're an employer, yeah, somebody works for you, yeah. You're going to have to pay a percentage of their income into this box called superannuation, right? And everybody thought, yeah. And then inflation adjusted to take care of that. And now every single person has a job. They get a 12% loading on their salary. It goes into this box called super. But you are preoccupied with other things. You're preoccupied with paying your mortgage, living your life, doing your thing. You're not going to look at the performance of yourself, of your superannuation, until the youngest child in your life loves you. So if the youngest child is 18, 21, about to leave, then you look at your numbers and you start thinking, how am I going to land this? The truth is the government knew they couldn't afford you. So they passed the law that forced your employer to lock it in and pay a percentage. Otherwise, your employer is breaking the law. And then you don't even know what's happening, and somebody is investing that money. The person investing that money, some of them are way more cautious than others. And if you were to take tonight an average performance, right? The average fund in Australia is performing around 8.5%. So in other words, if you have $100,000 there, well, at the end of the year, your fund manager invested, and now the return was 8.5, so it's $8,500 comes back to you. But what you and I know, right, is that there's 1% is the average fee.
Yep.
Right? So what is actually is, no, but I just cashed in 7.5% because 1% was the fee. But what if inflation was 3.8? You see now, as we're sitting here and talking about this, and Brett sitting with clients, and we start to go down and start going into the detail, we start to lose people. People disconnect, but you're not disconnecting from what we are saying. I want you to take this home. If you start to listen to details about your superannuation and you start to disconnect from the conversation, you are not disconnecting from the conversation itself, you're disconnecting from your future self. The government already declared they can't afford you. So they made it a law. When you're at a party and you say to someone, how's your super working? And you're causing dissonance for them, and they will walk away from you, you start to realize that the sooner you pay attention to the return on your superannuation, get very clear, the richer you will be. Now, there's a final frontier. Brett, what do you think inflation in Australia, like if you were to guess? The government sells us a number. Yeah, what would you think inflation is be sitting around?
Right now?
Yeah, just a gut feeling.
Probably 2 times what they're telling us.
That's right. Exactly.
Maybe even more on something.
So we did a bit of research, right? And it's saying about 3.8% is what the feedback is. But if you just to follow the price of education, just get one item, the price of education, or there's a basket of things that they say this is what inflation is, right? So what actually happens then is if you look at these numbers down, if you invested $100,000, then the manager says, well, I got you $8,500, but the fees is $950. So if inflation eroded your income in real terms, your $100,000 performed at $3,750. Okay, that's the truth. So you can't afford it, right? You can't afford it to not know what your super is doing, right? What would you say to this next slide here, man? What is the vibe you're getting from people calling us?
Well, it's more so for me, like, look at the numbers.
Numbers have no feelings,
They don't have
right?
any
People are
feelings,
calling and saying, I want to set up a self-managed super fund because I heard about it in a barbecue and I heard about it. And people are talking, it is like over the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks, there's been an incredible amount of people asking about it. So take the slide home. Okay, your super balance has no feelings. You do. Tonight, we're going to pay some attention. Okay? Tonight, we're going to pay some attention. So guys, here's the thing. Okay? Let's go. I'm going to go through it fast enough. And Mavia's sitting here with me. Uzair is here with me right now. Pedro's in the house. The whole team is here. I want you to know this. I don't know when you're going to be watching this, if it is tonight itself, in 2 months from now, at the end of the year. This conversation is very relevant. If you live in Australia, it will be relevant now, in a year from now, and 10 years from now. So I want you to know the team here is already preparing a booklet, and then we're going to give it to you as a gift from spending some time with us, right? We want to create wealthy people. Our wealthy nation needs wealthy individuals, right? That's the conversation. So, self-managed super fund. An SMSF is a private superannuation trust. So a superannuation, it's a trust. At the end of the day, it's a trust structure that is regulated, okay, by the ATO. One of the things that we want to say over and over during this presentation, there's no financial advice here to anyone. This is just, forgive me, just general knowledge. Oh, I hate this moment we're talking live on camera. And
This is how you know it's live, right?
Your throat gets all dry, right? You know, yeah.
The ATO, that was why. You were uncomfortable talking about the ATO.
Right. So a self-managed super fund is a trust regulated by the ATO, all right? Unlikely industries or retail funds, you are the trustee. The trustee means you're the boss, right? You make the investment decisions, you control where your money goes. But then when you say, Julio, I don't know anything about it. So it's actually an invitation for you to start taking control. And I think many Australians are starting to see the uncertainty. They understand that property prices are going to soar. They understand that rents are going to go through the roof, right? But there's a few other things, that people can invest in. What are the other things that people can put their money into?
So I suppose you're looking through in the rain of shares, ETFs. They can hold cash. They can put it in a term deposit. Also commercial property.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So it's a special trust that you're in charge of, and you can have all sorts of investments. But now we're going to start going into, you said that. Let's go through that. You can also buy commercial property. You had that client, what's his name, asking you that he wanted to buy a commercial property.
Yeah, I had Todd last week was wanting to know residential, commercial.
And he's in some medical.
Yeah, they were looking, wanting to know more about can they rent it to their business.
Yeah. So guys, so what happens here is this. We work with accountants and financial planners across Australia. We are specialists in property and finance. So Brett gets a call. Then a guy says, can I buy in a self-managed super fund? Can I do this? So anyone can gather this knowledge, right? But the conversation is, this is a high-end entrepreneur,
Yep.
making a lot of money. His wife is also a high-end businesswoman, right? And then now that their kids are becoming older, they are now paying attention to the detail, and that's what prompted the two of us to hang out with you tonight and start bringing the details. So let's go. Your self-made super fund buys the commercial property where your business operates. So you are an accountant and you have a self-made super fund. Your self-made super fund can buy the practice, right, where you run the accounting from. So you don't own it. The self-made super fund owns it. And the same for a dentist, for a doctor who wants to own the clinic. This guy in particular, he manufactures or puts together some equipment, and he wants to have a property that holds the guts of his business. Absolutely doable.
And he's expanding as well. He's doing very well.
Yeah.
So he's expanding.
So rather than paying rent to somebody else, he's going to pay rent to his self-made super fund, right? Your business pays market rate rent to your own, so you can't. You should not try to kind of do any special favors. It's called as arm's length. So if you're buying a building and that building would rent for $2,000 a week or $2,000 a month or $2,000 a year, it's the proper market value. You rent the building that your self-made super fund owns. You rent back to your business at market value. Make sense? Don't get into trouble for things that it's not worth it. It's better to do the things the right way, right? The rent received by your self-made super fund is taxed at only 15%. Did you know that?
No, can you say that again?
Yeah. The rent received by your self-made super fund is taxed at only 15%. So it's a special trust that is replacing, okay, your retirement fund. So the government wants you to actually succeed. So what's happening is this: when the rent goes into the self-made super fund, it's income, but it has a special consideration. So all of the income into the self-made super fund only pay 15% in tax. If that property is in your name, right, then you will pay your marginal, tax rate. Okay, so it's a good distinction to keep in mind. You effectively pay rent to yourself, your future self, because in the future you could sell that property and keep the cash. You could rent the building to somebody who bought your business, right? So from your self-made super fund, you will derive, the replacement of the pension the government would pay you. You are self-funding your retirement, right? So you build your wealth, okay? Not another landlord. Unlikely residential, you can lease commercial properties to a related party at a market value, okay? Capital gain on a sale, 10% effective tax inside a self-managed super fund, or 0 in pension phase. I am not going to go into the details of this too much deeper than just a statement, because we don't want to be sitting and crouching to other people's advice terms. Like financial planners, accountants, they can say these things, but I want you to understand this: you get a lot better tax if the self-managed super fund owns the property that you run your business from, okay? Now, I had another guy come in and he said, look, I have all these different people that love cars, and I want to buy a garage. I'm not a mechanic, but I want to buy a garage with my self-managed super fund, and I want to rent it to a mechanic mate of mine, and then he will run. Absolutely fine. Your self-managed super fund, as Brett said a moment ago, can put money in the bank, can buy property, residential, commercial. We actually help clients to buy residential properties inside of the self-managed super fund too. Okay, so this is the conversation now. Now, somebody was asking you, who should have a self-managed super fund, right?
Yeah, a client recently asked around, the amount of money they needed tonight. Have they got enough to buy one? Should they buy a property? Like all these questions, it's very new to them.
Yeah. So let's work this out again, back to the previous slides, and then.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. all the government wanted to do is to make sure that the monkey is not in their back. They don't want to have all this aging population and then have to pay them a pension from the age 65, 67 to 80, 90, and people will live longer. So they thought, well, we'll get the employer to pay the extra money into this thing called super. Now, as I already showed you, if you only have a superannuation, how much you got in super, that money is inside of a public fund. And the managers of that fund, they will invest and get a return, charge you a rate. You got that, right? When you set up your self-managed, the two words already tell you what's happening. It's your money, you're gonna take control of it. Self-managed, now super fund. So the rules are very specific. But then when you start to look at cost benefits, this is just some guidelines, okay? They say, well, to set one up, and we're gonna cover all of that in a moment. So you gotta set one up, then you gotta maintain it, then you're gonna invest it, and so on. So where we sit, we get lots of inquiries of people wanting to buy property through their self-managed super fund. So even though we may run through some of the know-how here, we work with accountants across Australia that set up the self-managed super fund for their clients. We work with financial planners that ask us to source properties for them, be it commercial, be it residential, right? So tonight is just for those of you that are asking us these questions. We just want to give you as much insights as possible. So a balance of $200,000. Less than that, you could have, it could be expensive. Now, nothing prohibits you. If you want to have one and you only have 100 grand, you can have one. There's no rule saying you can't have one. You can have one, but it's the whole thing about cost-benefit analysis, right? And because of inflation now, these numbers are moving, 250, 300,000, right? Willingness to be actively involved in investment decisions. Now, if you are a person who says, oh, I just want somebody to do it for me, I don't have the time, I don't have the interest, I don't have anything, then perhaps self-managed super fund is not for you, right? And we know people that they heard about self-managed super fund, they come and they would like to have something done, all right? To set one up, but it's not in their, how would you say it? They're not aligned to manage it, right?
Yeah, not aligned.
Yeah.
This next one is actually thin because I had a question from a client around this, an older client, single, but he wanted to know if he could set one up with his friend, his best mate.
Yeah, absolutely, you can. So what actually happens here is it has to have two members, okay? So a self-managed super fund, you can set up with a friend, you can set up with a family member. Often people set up with family, right? Husband, wife, kids, right? They all come in, but nothing stops you to actually set up with a friend, okay? What says here is that a clear investment strategy in writing. The ATO wants to see that. Now, guys, be very clear. What's actually happening with knowledge is becoming a commodity. Everyone now, especially with AI, they can access knowledge very quickly, right? And because things are way more standardized, right? Knowledge is not the issue. The issue is the application of the knowledge, right? But if you're going to set up a self-managed super fund, then there is a piece that you got to say, I am setting one up to buy property. I'm setting one up to do trades or, to invest in funds or even do trades. You could actually do that too, okay? As long as you have a active strategy that is mapped out. If you don't, then you already may, again, check with your accountant and your financial planner. Now, not suitable if you want, okay, to set and forget. I've seen we said that, what, how many times now? Maybe 4 times we said that?
A while, yeah.
All right. Not suitable if combined balance is under 150. So I don't want to contradict what I said a moment ago. It is a cost benefit analysis, right? If you have less than 150, there are some costs in running one, which we're gonna cover right now, okay? So here we go, self-managed super fund, the establishment is the trust deed. Now what I'm giving you here now, we don't want to spend a lot of time here because It's keeping that balance we said to you. And I start to get into the technical pieces, right? We start to lose people, right? Lose people say, oh, I gotta do dinner, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. But let's just fly through this. Here we go. To set one up between $400 and $1,500. Now, it's not the situation where the cheapest is the best, and I'll get the same, right? There isn't, right? Corporate trustees set up, so between 500 and 1,200. So this mate of yours that wanted to do something with his mate, they're quite sophisticated guys, right? They're in the tech world, they know a lot of places, technology to place the money and so on. So cheaper is not necessarily the best, right? Now, asset registration fee is standard. Rollover from your industry fund, normally they don't charge anything. You just set one up and then you tell your current fund, put the money in this one and it will be done. And then financial advice. The financial advice is normally an annual fee, okay? There's maintenance and then the advice itself. Again, we have seen some very expensive fees come through, right? But guys, it's back to that slide we gave you earlier. Let's just say your financial advisor is charging you 10 grand a year, okay? And your self-managed super fund already has $1.5 million, $2 million. You gotta, the way we would do and ask you to look into is what is my return? Then take away from it inflation and then all costs. And then make up your mind if the fees are worth or not. If not, ask the questions. Yeah? Ask the questions, you know? Now, to run one, okay? So basically then the ATO, so the levy, $260, the annual audit. Now, people will do audits. We've seen here the standard in Australia, $330 to $600. We have seen up to $1,200 here too. By the way, I'm just giving you the range of the average, right? Accounting and tax fees between $1,000 and $2,500. The ASIC, another fee the government puts in there, $60. And then the financial advice again on this side too, okay? Now, take control of your money, the pros and cons, yeah? We said this before, and again, Matthew's just waving at me here right now. He's actually showing me a copy of the book. We are going to give all of you, right, a booklet presenting all of this. So, brother, just can you cover this slide? Just tell people what they're going to get.
Yeah, well, I suppose the first part of when we look at the pros of it is the fact that you're taking full control over your investment decisions, okay? Now, some of you want to do that, some of you won't. But this is what it gives you, that you can take control of your money. You invest in direct residential and commercial property, okay? And your earnings are taxed at 15%. We covered that in the earlier one, right?
Not 47, yeah.
So you've got some good tax savings there. Tax-free returns in pension phase as well. And it's a shared across up to 6 members as well. So you can share those costs across.
Yeah. And the negatives are time on ongoing responsibilities required. If you think it's set, forget, don't do it. Now, for Brett and I, we get excited because if we take control of our self-managed super fund, and if you asked us at a party, yourself, how's your super going? You're going to see us grinning because we're getting richer and we know it. Are you getting this? I'm telling you now, if you're at a party and you ask somebody, how's your super going? And they give you a big smile. And they just nod. Two things are happening in their lives, right? The youngest has already left the house and now they're looking at how I'm gonna land this. And this is why a lot of people are asking us. So the people that are asking us the most are professionals earning big money and people looking how they're gonna land it, right? But it takes time. The annual compliance is between $2,000 and $6,000. We already asked you to compare that. Is it worth your while paying between two, you know? So let's just say $3,000 a year is what the compliance costs are every year, right? The ATO penalties for rule breaches, and we're going to talk some more about the rules in a moment. The minimum of $200,000 combined to be the cost effective. So we're talking about these two friends, and we have a case study coming down here too. No government compensation scheme if mismanaged. All right. So no government compensation scheme if mismanaged. What does that mean? It means this: if your money is in a fund, that is a retail fund, a national fund, and something horribly went wrong, there are some insurances that the government will then back you up on. But I don't know about you. For me, I'd rather be in control of my own money, right? That's it. That's what this slide is saying. Well, that's one of our clients right now, right?
Yeah.
Let's just
Andrew Mugger.
yeah, let's just go through it. Like, so these guys showed up, and so Andrew had 190,000, right, in his everyday super, and Margot had 230, so combined 420. So that little test of $200,000, good to go. Okay. Their goal was to stop relying on industry fund to decide their future. They wanted to buy a $720,000 residential property, right? They already been speaking with their accountant, and that's what they wanted to do, to put a property investment inside of their super. We're going to take you there right now, okay? They combined 420 to make it happen, right? And build a genuine retirement wealth, not just accumulate contributions, right? So you understand here, accumulate contributions is Brett and I have observed that when people look at their super and they see every year there's a bit more money there, what's actually going in there is the contribution for the employer, from the employer, not necessarily performance, and they're very different. So if you are on $100,000 salary, it's $12,000 added to your self-made super, or to your super fund. To your super fund, 12 grand every year, bang, bang, bang. So you see that growing. Inflation is eating at it in the background, right? So that's why that performance makes, it's very, very important that it's not just a contribution, but also the performance of your money. I think we've made this point quite a few times as well. So use the combined 420 to make it happen, okay? Build genuine retirement wealth, not just accumulate contributions. That's what I meant by that. Now let's keep going down. A company, right? So what's a corporate trustee? So if your superannuation, your self-made super fund is a trust, so there's the trustee is the person who tells the trust what to do. So what they will do is normally put a company here, right? For protection purposes. Again, we're not going to go too deep into that. We're just going to read this slide, okay? Slide we're prepared to give you knowledge. A company, PTY, set up specifically to act as trustee for the self-made super fund. Andrew and Margot are the directors of the trustee company, right? The company is the legal trustee. Get this. The company is the trustee, and they are the directors of the trustee company, okay? What does it matter? If a member dies or leaves, no stamp duty is triggered. So if a company up here, right, and one of them dies or something happens, the self-made super fund is below here. Something happens up here, it doesn't trigger anything down below. Assets are registered in the company name, so cleaner legal separation, harder for creditors to pierce the structure. So if there's a company up here and then the assets are held down below, there's a degree of separation, right? The continuity, the company never dies. The self-made super fund keeps running. So if you are right now in your 50s and your kids are 18, right? You could start a self-made super fund where your kid's coming in now. So you get longevity. It's just beautiful because basically 2 generations. It can actually be quite effective for wealth creation, right? Now, so what actually happens also, you have to have that structure if you want to borrow money. Yes, your self-made super fund can borrow money. It's actually beautiful. And we're going to go through the numbers here in a moment, okay? So what is a corporate trustee and why? The corporate trustee is the company. And so here's the benefits, okay? No stamp duty, very clean, never dies, right? Yes, it can go to the market and borrow money, right? It's a very small amount of money per annum to assets to keep it alive, and it's a one-off setup cost between $500 and $1,200. So that cost, that protection, it's really worth it. Okay.
You say no stamp duty.
Okay. So
Self-managed pays no stamp duty.
No. What happens is if you sell things here, then all sorts of taxes take place. But if something happens up here and one person dies, they have divorce, and they change names up here, then there's no stamp duty down below here if something changes upstairs.
Got it.
Okay, so it's very beautiful, clean like that. Now, if the self-managed super fund buys and sells and it operates, it's just like a trust with special concessions, then all sorts of trusts will be triggered. Okay, it's just an entity plain. So yes, self-managed super funds, most of them will have capital gains tax. They would have, if you bought and then you sold later, they would have land tax and all sorts of other things as well, right? So what is a trust deed? What's the deed? So what happens is when you start going down this hall, all sorts of words starts coming at you. Oh, so hold on a second, I'm getting confused already. I have a company, I have a self-managed super fund. If you stay with us right now, you understand this. Your self-managed super fund's just a trust. A trust is a box that holds your assets. The company at the top tells the trust what to do. There's a separation. So the trust holds the assets. The company holds the decision-making, what to do. Now, what is the deed? It's kind of a set of rules, if you will. A trust deed is the legal document that establishes your self-managed super fund. It's about purpose, why it exists. So I'm very happy that you are here. And I told you earlier, we're trying to make this fun and so on because we lose people. But we are sick of people trying to set up a self-managed fund, and people sometimes come in and they have no idea about the details. And that's what tonight is all about, right? It is set out the rules the trust must follow, who the members and the trustees are, how contributions are made. So again, I go back to your mate, right? The two mates. So you've got to have a rule like it's a percentage of this. It's this much money is going to come in. So the contributions of the money coming into the self-managed super fund, right? How benefits are paid and when. Now, if it is a self-managed super fund, it is designed for your retirement. It is your money, but only later, right? So you can invest it, you can make it grow, but you can't use it until you are in a retirement phase, on a pension phase, I should say, right? Again, guys, this is all open knowledge, no financial advice to anyone. Just want you to, if you're hanging out with us, is because you want to know, okay? How investments can be made. So that's the investment strategy we spoke about already. What happens if a member dies? You got to have that in writing, right? How the fund can be closed up, right? And rules around borrowing. Now, this is where about to get really exciting in a moment. Because yes, your self-managed super fund can borrow money. The deed must be prepared by a qualified legal practitioner. What I love about the law in Australia is this is not willy-nilly. So if you're going to set up one, you're going to go to somebody who knows what they're doing, okay? It must be kept current. And I love the fact that no one could say, oh, I did not know. There's a lot of leverage and a lot of power in having your self-managed super fund. But again, I think this is the 8th time I'm saying, not to the person who just kind of said forget, okay? If superannuation law changes and your deed is not updated, your fund may become non-compliant, okay? That's not too hard. There's plenty of AI now, plenty of software, and your deed gets updated as you go along. So Andrew and Margot had their professionally drafted as part of their self-managed super fund setup. So when I gave you the quotes or the costs on average in Australia, everything's already there, right? What Andrew and Margot's did included a corporate trustee clause, limited recourse borrowing authority. We're going to talk a bit more about that in a moment, right? Investment strategy framework. Yes, we want to buy a commercial property to run our business through it. We're going to borrow 70% of the money. All of it starts to take shape very fast. Pension commencement rules. So they already be looking at, I would like to retire at 63, 65, 67, 72, right? As long as you start to look at the rules and you start to make some calls when things will take shape. And death and benefits nomination rules. So if one dies, then this happens. If the other one dies, then this happens. So things get really nominated, right? Now here, again, there's quite a few different things here, and I don't want to be reading this word for word. As I said, if you're here with us until now, it's because you are in the right space for the information, right? Okay, so it has to have an ABN, okay, and a bank account. It has to have these things, okay? Log into your industry funds online portal. So how to roll over the funds into your self-managed super fund. So you decided to do it, and now we're in the kind of, oh, what do I do? So I set up here, and my money is over there on the normal funds. What do I do? Well, you're gonna have an ABN, and you're gonna make sure that you have an ABN before you do anything. And then you're gonna have a bank account. So you go with your self-managed super fund to the bank and set up the bank account, okay? Now, some professionals, they will do all for you, okay? Some parts you're gonna do a little legwork. It doesn't really matter. But then, once you have all of that in place, you just go to your current one and say, transfer all the money here, right? So enter your self-managed super fund. Basically, what's happening here is just step-by-step what to do. Set up the fund, contact with your current fund, and transfer the money, right? And once the money is inside of your self-managed super fund, make sure, and this is an important piece, that and there are many tools on the internet to do so. It is very, very often people had a job between 18 and 22, they forgot about it. And that money was paid into a different, fund, and they forgot about it. There are ways, especially if before you got married, you had a different name, okay? Make sure that you remember everywhere you worked, and you pull all the monies step by step, okay, on how to pull the money into your self-managed super fund. Don't leave a dollar behind, okay? Now, here is what a limited recourse borrowing arrangement is. One of the beauties about self-managed super fund is if you borrow the money from a major bank or a lending institution, okay, and something goes wrong, they can't just come and take the money back or force you to sell the assets. And that's what's called limited recourse borrowing arrangement. So for banks, it's a bit more higher risk, right? So let's just have a quick look at that. High risk because they can't get their money back as easily as if you borrowed in your own name. They could just force you to sell and get the money back. Or self-managed super fund is not as easy. So the self-managed super fund takes out a loan from a specialist lender. The property is purchased and held in a separate bare trust. That's absolutely beautiful until the loan is repaid. So the bare trust, right? So here's your super fund. Now you have another little trust to hold the loan and the property that loan goes with. If the self-managed super fund defaults, the lender can only take the property, not the other self-managed super fund assets. Make sense? That's. I don't want to go any deeper to that because I don't want to go across and getting.
Filed.
Yeah. Okay. That's right.
Filed.
That's it. Once the loan is repaid, the property transferred to the self-managed super fund. That's what the bare trust is. So, hey bank, thank you for the money. I'm gonna own this property in this bare trust. So it's a separate little trust here. And I understand you are lending me this money against this property, and this property has all the rules. And I'm gonna pay, if it's a commercial property, I'm gonna pay from the rent out of my own business and make you payments. If it's a residential property, I'll pay out the rent, plus my contributions coming into it. We're good for the money. The moment the property is paid out in full, and that's another thing about us as well, we would say to people, try to pay for the debt on things as fast as you can, okay? Once the loan is repaid, the property transfers into self-managed super fund. all rents go into the self-managed super fund, all repayments come from the self-managed super fund, right? Now, it's saying here maximum LVR is 80%, right? Well, most banks now, they're sitting at a 70%. Yes, yes. You can go and find some very special lenders that will lend to you at 80%, but the greatest majority you'll be looking at 70%, especially if it's commercial, right? Now, interest rates for a self-managed super fund, because of the non-recourse, it's normally more expensive. But it's okay because it washes out because your superannuation fund does not pay as much taxes. So you give a bit more money to the banks, but you don't give as much money to the government. And it's tax deductible though inside of the self-managed super fund, but at a lower rate, only 15%. Okay? Okay. So that's what's sitting in Australia right now between 7.8, and yet we have seen as high as 9%. Yeah, cool. All right, guys, let's do this now. So Margot and Andrew have $420,000, and so now we need a plan. So they engage with a specialist, a self-managed super fund accountant. They got it done. They established the corporate trustee, as we said before. They created a self-managed super fund trustee and registered with the ATO. Step by step, they opened a self-managed super fund bank account, rolled over the funds like we explained a moment ago, and they prepared a written investment strategy. Then they will go, hey, we are buying a 720, that's the written strategy right here, okay? We're buying a $720,000 property. We believe that the gross rental yield will be 5%. Yep. So we reckon we're going to get shy of $700 a week rent. Yeah. Now, we already done, yeah, we understand the loans. So here's the principal and interest loans at 7.3% across 25 years. So you can see here, they had cash, so they put the deposit. They now owe the bank $504,000. That's the repayments, rock and roll. But they're going to be now some more expenses. The council rates, insurances, maintenance, just as normal, right? The self-managed super fund, then the administration that we talked about, the accountant's fees, government fees, etc. So the beauty now is they're going to own that property, let's just say, at $300 per week. Where are they going to get the money for the $300 a week? It's the cash flow, the cash that was left after the purchase, and future contributions. So the beauty now is if the contributions are coming in and use the $300 a week to maintenance, to do the holding it all together, but whatever money that is left over, you can start paying it down and paying it down. So your very interest bill is going to diminish. That's why we say you got to talk to your accountant, talk to your financial planner, see the maximum contribution you can do. And if you have a property in there and you decide to drive the debt down on that property, very soon that property is going to have growth. It's going to grow in value, and the rent's going to grow in value as well. But once that property is paid for, that rent that comes in every week. So let's just say now, 10 years later, 15 years later, you bought a property tonight for 720. Let's just say 10 years later, I come to see you, 12 years later, I come to see you, and the property is $1.5 million, okay, 1.4 million. Got it. So it went from 700 to 1.4, debt went down, so your equity or your wealth is 1.4. But at 1.4, how much rent should you be getting for that property? Let's just say you get $900. That $900, you can invest in shares every week. You get the $900, you put into shares. Get $900, and you can do crypto. You can do all sorts of things, right? Now, in self-managed super funds, you cannot borrow against that property to buy another one. So that's where we see lots of business owners that actually have high income, yeah? So once you start to take all the factoring of all of this, your contribution to superannuation is a very, very important. But if you are the owner of your own business, talk to your accountant, because it may pay off that you pay yourself a salary and you force your business to make a super contribution to your self-managed super fund, okay? And on the other side here, we talk tax inside of self-managed super fund, earning tax at 15%. The capital gains effective 10%. Taxation after retirement is 0. Okay. Again, guys, just giving you an overall view, right? Now, the property purchase, then what happens is like doing some more numbers now. $720,000 was the value of the property. The deposit 30% is $216,000. They're gonna borrow $504,000. They will pay stamp duty at $32,000, right? Now let's just say all the legals to get them from just a concept to now having it, was estimating $18,000, extremely high, but nonetheless, we're leaving nothing to chance, right? Working capital reserve debt now, let's go. We own the property now. So now the self-managed super fund borrows to buy the property. The lender's recourse limited to that property only. So that's what the recourse is. That's where we said about the bear trust. Other self-managed super fund assets fully protected. They do not clash with each other. Now, a bank can't come and say, oh, you failed to pay me on this house. How many other things? Oh, you got gold as well. You got shares as well. You're going to have to sell those other things to pay me back. No. The debt is against that house, and that house is the only thing guaranteeing that debt. I hope that is clear right now. All right? So then the rate's a bit more expensive, 7.3. If rate's at 6.5, you pick it up 7.3. If the rate's at 7, you pick it up at 8. So always a little bit more expensive, right? And the deposit's a bit high too, 30%. Interest is deductible, okay? It truly is deductible with your self-managed super fund. Now, here we go then. The property value is 720. As I was mentioning a moment ago, I visit you 10 years from now, and there you go. The property is valued from 720 to 1.3 million. The loan balance from 504 to 420. Now, if you were a client of JDL Strategies, we would be working with you to be way more cautious about that debt. Now, strategies within strategies, some people say, I'm not too interested in the debt reduction. Some people are very interested. Horses for courses, right? So we're running here typical scenario. But if you were a client here, we would be working with your other advisors, financial planners, accountants, to really drive that debt down, okay? So then we start to look then at the difference, right, of your self-managed super fund worth tonight, $369,000, okay, and to $1 million for $300 a week and diminishing. Remember what I said a moment ago, that after everything's taken care of, it's $297 a week. That's day one. As rent goes up and up and up, and the debt comes down, that becomes less and less and less. So your internal rate return is going through the roof. So again, the unfair advantages why a lot of people are coming to us is the fact that if, by the way, we both have properties in our names. We look at life. Our family have properties in their names, right? So what happens is, if you're in a higher bracket, we're going to be paying 47 cents in the dollar as a person. So we own property in our own names to reduce that tax. Okay? So this slide here, I don't want it to be skewed. It's just saying that, yes, you pay less tax in your self-managed super fund up front. Okay? So a self-managed super fund is a conversation for you to be having with your advisors, right? And then a self-managed super fund pension phase, that if you are 2 years out of retirement, that is extremely important, all right? Okay, now things you must know. Again, we're gonna go bang, bang, bang. We are only 9 slides now to finish it off. If this was a flight, you'd be saying, people saying, cabin crew, prepare for landing, right? Again, when we were preparing this presentation with the team, you should have seen Brett was just really, really tough on me. He sent me like I'm already built, like I'm good to go. And he says, Jules, yes, dude, these are the questions. I'm like, oh, okay. So I went back into the presentation. So this presentation is question led. So what we actually did, we got all the questions and start then reverse engineering the presentation. So tonight, oh, by the way, brother, do you know anyone who suffers from insomnia?
A lot of people.
All right. If you suffer from insomnia, this can be the cure. What you gotta do is before you go to sleep, you just play it and you're gonna like, because it is not our intention to put anyone to sleep, but it happens. The moment you talk about finance and investment and people go into the detail of the details, they're like, it's not falling asleep, right? That's not our intention, but nonetheless, let's go home. You cannot live in or rent to family. So some people have come and bought a beach house, nice beach house. They know it's going to increase in value, right? They bought an apartment on the Gold Coast. They're from Melbourne. They bought an apartment on the Gold Coast through their self-made super fund. Is that okay? 100%. Okay, so now the loan itself must be structured correctly. No dilly-dally, no special favors. As a matter of fact, the loan to a self-made super fund it's easy to get, like you can get it every day of the week, but it needs to be done right. It has a time frame, and it will be paid by this time. There is not a lot of, it's the loan itself is you borrow it and you pay for it, right? Properties must be purchased at arm's length, and that's again, there's no special favors, none of this. Arm's length thing means that the self-made super fund is going to buy a property. It's not buying a property from your aunt. It's not discounts. It has to be separate from your family and so on. There is, I've seen so many people come up with special, I just want to help my brother and I'm going to buy a part of his farm or my self-made super fund and give them. The moment conversations like this start to emerge, you're already going towards hot water, all right? Yeah, I just wanted to, I don't want to be the bearer of any bad news or anything like that, but arm's length, folks, arm's length, right? Okay, so things you must know. So self-made super fund property rules, because compliance failures are expensive. The sole purpose test, right? The fund must be maintained solely to provide retirement benefits. Are you clear? The purpose of this whole thing is that you will retire, and the government is quite onto it. When you retire, you're not dependent on the government. So if you did all sorts of bad decisions along the way, that's why the guidelines are so strict, because they don't want to pick you up as a pension case. That's it. So the whole purpose of this thing is that you are creating wealth that you can retire from. Is that clear? Written investment strategy is mandatory for the same purpose, for the reason above. An annual audit is mandatory, no exceptions, right? Okay, who you are rather be, a default industry fund, 420, and here is now the beauty of the word leverage. If you have a $420,000, so how much money have you got in super? 420. Now guys, we're gonna go now into a beautiful conversation of maths. And it's towards the end. Well, you know what? Uze, you know what I should have said at the beginning of this? I should have said something like this. You stay with us to the end. Because at the end, we're going to show you some things that you must know. Maybe you can actually cut this and put it in the beginning when we put this out to the public, right? Okay, so the piece is this. If you have 420 inside of a normal fund and you receive a salary from your employment, well, the percentage that the government says it is, and tonight it's 12%, has to go into that fund. So that fund is growing by the contributions. But what happens when you set up a self-managed super fund? You can leverage it. So that 420, a chunk of it can be the deposit for a lot more capital. And that's what gearing is. So if you, and we did all the samples already. So if you use a chunk of that money and you still have some money left over, but you're now driving $720,000 worth of property, the borrowed funds got you driving a much bigger asset base. So you may have 8% return on only 420, but if you have 5% return on 420 plus the 500 you borrow, remember, and it started then, the 5% return on a much bigger base will outperform than the 8% return on a smaller base. I'm hoping it makes sense here, right? So the results. Okay, check your super balance tonight. Book a strategy session. Guys, this is what happens for us. Another thing also that I'll promise you right now is this. If you stayed with us this far in the presentation, okay, I'm happy to give you the training we give to accountants across Australia. It's called the Golden Parts. JDL Strategies. JDL stands for Just Do Life Strategies. JDL Strategies, for a long time, has worked with accountants across Australia. And we have given them training on how to help their clients to see wealth. Because often, accountant, it's not his job for wealth creation. Some do it, real good jobs. The majority of them is like, oh, that's not my job. So we give them these tools, right? If you want that tool, all you got to do is to put whatever platform you are right now, just say, I want it. I'm about to give you a QR code now. Just let us know, all right, that you want the training that we give to accountants, right? You can book a strategy session with us, and we will run your own case study, right? So we have this slide here, say Q&A right now, cool. But as we said, Brett got all these different questions. We went back to the drawing board and redone the presentation as answering all the questions we gave. Now, guys, if you want to have access to our software, access to our presentations, to our training, all you have got to do right now is get your phone and take a photo of this and then come in and log yourself. The name of where you're gonna arrive is called Super Super. It's not a mistake. I call it Super Super. It's like, super, greater than normal, right? So it's a supercharged superannuation conversation, all right? All you got to do right now is to take a photo of this, take a screenshot of this, come and meet us. We are JDL Strategies, and we stand here before you with one mission: to educate every single person in Australia. A wealthy nation needs wealthy individuals. I would love if you could give me some feedback. And if you already don't follow us, will you please follow us, JDL Strategies, on Instagram, and let us know what else you want to know, all right? Brett, thank you so much I want you to know, Brett didn't say much, but he challenged me. He came to the meeting last week and said, brother, this is happening.
I've got a new name for you. It's called Super Julio.
Yeah, thank you, brother. And he challenged me and said, what can we do? And I said, mate, it'll be my pleasure to put something together and bring to you guys tonight. And for those of you that received the email and said, I want to be there, I understand many people have already asked us to introduce them to the people that will set the whole thing up. Thank you for your business. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's talk about your self-managed super fund in life as we go. So guys, have a good evening, have a great night. And if anything else that you want to know, just put in the chat right now, and my team's here. They will get to know what else you need, and we'll do that to help. All right, have a good evening.